And we're back for the After Dark section of the Captain's Table. This is a question and answer session. Yes. I forgot who made that suggestion. It was a couple episodes ago. They made the session. I'm like, that's a good name. It's a good. The marketer in me is like, someone's going to click on it saying, ooh, what's After Dark? This sounds spicy. And to be fair, we get kind of spicy sometimes. This is where we take questions from the chat. If you're in chat and you want to ask a question, just make sure you use bracket question and then ask your question. And then that way the bot will pick it up. I forgot to start the bot. The bot is actually activated, but I forgot to collect it. The question bot here /start. Boop. And then it should pick up a bunch of ones that were already in chat. It didn't seem to do this. Interesting. Yep, there it goes.
Yeah, some people were asking questions already.
Yes, and it's actually pulled up some of them. So if you didn't get your question asked, please do answered. Please do put it in again. There's a couple of them here. So the first question that I have listed is from Call Me Teach, who asks, why do you think CIG digs in so hard about their marketing campaigns and showing the game in a better light than we've ever experienced in game? Love me a good cinematic, but I'd rather play. I'm going to say
that again, I'm sorry.
So the question, if you want to also, for those of you who are here, if you're on the Star Citizen Content Creator Discord that I have, there's actually a section that says question bot. You can actually read it there. But basically he's asking, why do you think CIG goes so hard on their marketing campaigns with cinematics when it's not the actual reality of Star Citizen?
Ooh, they gotten better. Well, who's going first?
Well, I'll start from a marketing perspective. If you're going to be paying money for marketing, you want to elicit a understanding of what the game should feel like, what you're trying to create the game is feeling like. Let me give you an example. There's a famous old ad for Gears of War, which got everyone to start playing I forgot that Mad World. The song Mad World. It was a song that I think was made for Donnie Darko. I don't remember the movie Donnie Darko, but it's this super gloomy and like atmospheric where you have the song Bad World playing in the background with Marcus Phoenix running around and it's all dark. And it was pretty famous at the time. Actually got a lot of attention to it. Gears of War is not a moody, like depressing game. It is a game where you chainsaw people with in the face with a gun. Like Halo 3 famously had an entire marketing campaign where the people who were running their marketing campaign didn't know the story of Halo 3, but they did it so set it up as a way of like a museum of what happened after the fact with people who were like nothing to do with Halo 3, but it caught the attention. I think it's an old Tears for Fears remix. Okay, there we go. So like, the reality is marketing is not trying to give a 100% accurate representation of the game. They're trying to elicit the feeling of what the game should be, what they're hoping for the game to be for you.
Right.
And World of Warcraft's cinematics are famously like more energetic. Elite Dangerous. Look at the original launch trailer for Elite Dangerous. That thing was high octane, action packed. It was guns blazing. It was ships flying around. It was, like epic music. That has not at all what Elite Dangerous was, especially at that time. But it was better. But it was kind of trying to achieve the attention and try to like present what the game was supposed to be. So when I hear people say, "Well, this isn't a representation of the game," and it's like it is, but also, if CIG is paying for ads, they're going to do so in a way that makes the game look like what they want it to be. You don't advertise by saying this game is buggy as hell. Please don't play it.
Right.
And the problem that leads to the question is then why is CIG paying for ads? Because they need to gather data. As a marketing researcher, that was my focus. The idea of trying to figure out who your demographic is for the game, who's going to click on what, how do people react to certain types of ads, are very important to then use for, I don't know, a major activation project that you've been working for 12 years on, that has spent most of your money and time on, like Squadron 42.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why, at least in my experience and from what I've heard, why there are marketing is that it works, but they're also using it to gather data to be able to use that data and then feed it back into their marketing campaign for Squadron. So Data says he doesn't want to be gathered. Well, it's too bad. Go ahead, fast forward.
Yeah, Paul, imagine how many players they would get into the game if they, instead of saying playable now, it says testable now.
I do think that
they wouldn't get that many.
I do think that if CIG had puts up a disclaimer, a small disclaimer that runs before every ad,
Fine print.
That's fine print that says representation of gameplay, representation of hopefully the game's currently in development. Things may change. Miles may vary. Just a quick little like primer, just like, not the final product. Let's just understand this is sort of a representation of what we want to do. And boom,
to your point, they've gotten better with regard to inspiration and imagination or imagined videos versus what's currently in the game for that pack. Because like the Cargo Empire one, I think that's one of the first or few instances when I say this is mostly what everything that's in the game. There's not much inspiration or imagination in that video. But before that, they even had a video called Imagine. Everyone remembers the popular video from back in the day, where this was what the Star Citizen inspires to be. So I think they've gotten better with that.
Griffin, what do you think? Do you think why do you think they focus so hard on the advertisements if it's not a direct representation of what the game is?
Yeah. There's been the whole transition from, what was in the earlier days, the marketing was directed toward us backers. At least the bulk of the emphasis was there. And I think when it really started to mess with folks a little bit is when we started seeing it pop on YouTube as a commercial. And we've had plenty of conversations about playable now versus, join in and test the game. Some other word, because playable now, if you don't know the background of this game and the background of the development, that means that I can come in and play the game. And that can be problematic. We've always felt that was problematic. At the same time, they do need the analytics. They need the information. They need people to come in and start exposing it. And there are a lot of people over there that sometimes maybe seem like they're not smart, but there are people over there who are smart when it comes to marketing. So to your point, Paul, I was thinking the same thing when you said this earlier. Well, if we don't show them a playable game, what type of game do you want them to show? Are we talking about showing a trailer with bugs in it? I mean, that's it. So I know people feel like it's really over the top because some of the videos, they'll put out something. And I mean, years ago, what was that video? It was one of the videos. It was the FPS one with Star Marine. And there was a lot of stuff we couldn't do in there at that moment. Remember?
Shield.
Yeah, the first time we saw Star Marine with the Redeemer, remember that? Yeah. And the personal shields and stuff and everything, And I remember people saying, "Where are the personal shields?" There, so well, they're coming. Maybe they'll come later. Blah blah blah. But some people thought that was in the game already, and so I can see how there would be people who feel a bit disappointed or feel like CIG's kind of, pulling the wool over folks' eyes. If you've been around and you're educated enough about the project, you know that most of the stuff is always about what's to come versus what is. So it's a tightrope, and this is where I think people get into the question about ethical marketing. If there is such a thing, is ethical marketing, but that becomes one of the points for that.
Fist, your thoughts? Why does CIG go so hard on these trailers, even if it's not a direct representation of the game?
I think, though, to me, I think again, you make a good point about numbers, data. I'll kind of refer I have to change my stance on the way I felt about 318, because during 318 when they were advertising, and I was like, man, this advertising is so great, but 318 is so we probably wouldn't have a 318 if they didn't have all of that marketing and we've had that influx of people to come in and pound the game. So therefore, I think, to me, the marketing is doing what it's intended to do for them to be able to get the numbers back, because technically that's what they really want to get. Excuse me. It's so the way that they can have um I got to use this word. So fast car is going to go ahead. The pounding of the servers.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have that, so you need to have numbers. And how do you bring numbers in? Well, you got to put the new shiny in front of somebody and say, "Hey, look, come on in." You know. So I think that's, to me, they got to do it. That's the only way that they're going to get that.
Yeah. I think there is to me there is also a limit. I think one of the things that CIG, and I think they've learned from this, from 318 specifically, is if you're unsure about the launch of your patch, don't advertise it right away.
Right.
You can delay it a couple of weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
exactly.
what you want anyways, because you know you're going to get an influx of players coming in to help hit those servers on and early on.
Yep.
Wait a couple weeks. Wait for things. Drop a couple hot fixes. Drop a patch or two or something like that, and then advertise it.
Yep.
So, I think that's the compromise that I could see, because I think no one talks about the trailers. I have not seen a single person complain about the fight for Pyro trailer. If you've seen it, it's great trailer. Introduces you to all of the different factions, and then ends up with, choose the fight for Pyro. It's the idea is it's trying to tell you there's an event going on where these different factions are fighting each other. I wouldn't be surprised if CIG is paying ads to have those put that specific trailer put out a bunch of different people to watch it, because it's like there's an event going on, come fight for Pyro sort of thing. And I think the reason why you don't see that is because there's not like been weeks of people being unable to play the game, or the fight for Pyro is completely busted and doesn't work for anybody, or you only see these comments when something bad happens in the game. But when when the patch releases smoothly, which they do sometimes, I know for those of you who are newer, that may sound weird, but they do release sometimes pretty smoothly. But like, we don't see that. So I think it's a matter of the squeaky wheel gets the grease. People complain about it because it exists, because they pay attention to it more because of how their own experiences differ. So, all right. Next question comes from. Where are you there? Next question comes from Malakina, who asks, what about the most recent example of limited sales, the Pioneer? It's been sold for ages, unlimited, and now it's limited. There's no gameplay reason to limit it at this point, but there's a sales reason to intensify FOMO, to make sure that the most expensive ships sell to them meaningful numbers. It is nothing about limiting the ship, because they want to see how many in game, because of how many they want to see in game is, as they once said, XD. That's like an example of attributing malice rather than like, because Malakina, do you know this? Do you have some secret source that tells you that this is what CIG is trying to do, or are you extrapolating what you think based off what you see?
Yeah, I didn't remember the Pioneer being
non-hull limited.
Yeah, it was this past IE, yeah. But before that, is that true, or am I misremembering? Was it
I don't know.
Limited?
There are some things that could be introduced in considerations as to why there's a hull limitation as well. One of them is the further design development of what they want the end game to be in this game. At the time when Pioneer came out, the only ship we thought about that was going to be doing building was the Pioneer. That was it. There were no other options. Now we've got multiple other ships that they're looking at that are going to be doing building as well. And so the Pioneer becomes the capital of all those ships. I don't know that it's about driving FOMO. It could be. I'm not saying it's not, but I also see how that this dynamic of multiple ways of creating and building in the game and manufacturing in the game, and we still don't know what all the manufacturing elements are going to be, might be another reason and maybe they're doing it to limit it because there's only so many of them getting, I could buy it. But there's always still that option of you don't have to buy it now. It's not even in the game, so buying it now, what's the benefit? I mean, other than maybe if you're going to save some bucks because it's going to increase, but you know, it's difficult for me to believe that it's completely based upon FOMO on that.
I just have a story. Oh, go ahead.
So the question is basically like the Pioneer has been sold for ages and limited. Now it's limited. Is this? There's no gameplay reason for it. Is this just for make money?
Wait, I'm trying to. Okay, say that one more time. I'm trying to understand the question.
So the question, I'll read the full thing. What about the most recent example of limited sales, the Pioneer? It's been sold for ages, unlimited, and is now limited. There's no gameplay reason for it limited at this point, but there is a sales reason. They intensify FOMO to make sure that the most expensive ships sell into them meaningful numbers. It is nothing about limiting the ship because they want to see it that many in game, as they once said.
Right, I get that. I don't. I mean, I'm trying to really figure out what is their question and refer to. Like, is it because is it creating FOMO, or I'm trying to make sure I understand.
I think he's trying to focus on like to try to say that the Pioneer is a FOMO sale. Is that a FOMO sale?
Yeah, I think. I mean, again, something's limited. Yes, I don't think it's intentionally to say that it's again like it's FOMO, but I mean, I have to say yes, it is FOMO because something that's limited creates FOMO.
Okay.
I mean,
All right, fast card.
I have a bit of additional information for the Pioneer sale.
Okay.
Because all that week, I was paying attention to how fast ships sold in wave one, depending on if it was limited for that day. Typically, the wave one ship sells out instantaneously or within 30 seconds. Let me see if I can. No, I can't look it up, but I'm trying to go back my memory. The Pioneer, the Warbond, and the RSI Credit Pioneer sold out relatively quick, and I think it was in 4 minutes. I want to say for wave one. So then I went away and did other stuff and came back, and the Pioneer was back on sale, but it was still hull limited, and it stayed on sale after those 4 minutes for another 90 minutes or 2 hours. I'm like, what's going on here? Typically, a ship was sold out and they sold out, or sold out in 30 seconds and wait till wave two. But no, that wave one, I don't know what happened. Maybe they said, okay, the demand is so high that we should add add more hulls to the limited sales. I don't know what happened, but that's what I saw. It sold out in 4 minutes. It said sold out, and then later on it came back and more were available. So I don't know. Take that for what you will. That's anecdotal, but that's what I saw. So yeah, I do have to say it is FOMO.
I am hearing also conflicting reports because there's some people in chat are saying it was always hull limited. I remember I remember it being limited.
I remember it being unlimited for a while. Then limited.
I remember it being limited and unlimited because I think if you remember correctly, the original Pioneer came with land claims.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it was limited through the land claims. Like if you wanted to purchase it was limited. And then when they brought it back, it had land claims. But then they started removing the land claims, and then they made it unlimited after they removed the land claims, I want to say. But it's been back and forth. I don't know this, so I couldn't tell you if it is or not. I think the honest to God answer is what Griffin was saying, is that I don't think CIG was making it a FOMO sale specifically to make more money. I think what the CIG was doing was making it a limited sale because it was now the one of a many different tiers of.
It became a matter.
Yeah, and they like the same reasons why they want to do the Idris limited and all of the other ones is they wanted to try to reduce the numbers that are just available. Could that be true or not? I don't know. Obviously, Malakiri doesn't believe that. He believes that CIG is just sitting there going, yes, yes. Chris Roberts is rubbing the $100 bills on his face, be like, yes, more pioneers.
Stroking the cat. Stroking the cat.
Yeah, just swimming in his money bags or whatever. But I think it's I think it's more a lot more of a CIG's like. That's CIG's argument. Whether it makes sense or not, I don't know. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think limiting, because especially when it comes to things like the Idris, which like how can you limit the number of Idrises when they've sold like thousands of Idrises every year for the last 6 years? Like there's gotta be like thousands of Idrises out there. So at this point, it's like you're not limiting the
tens of thousands.
Is it really? Yeah. But is it really limited though? Yeah, that's why I'm trying to figure out.
It is really limited? It's a lot. It's limited, but it's a lot. There is a lot of those difficult going. You know,
right? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I'm just trying to figure it out. Cause like, wow.
Is it necessary to attribute cartoonish evil to mundane corporate evil? Yeah, because I'm an entertainer and I'm going to put it out there. Because it often feels like people are trying to attribute this sort of like this malice towards CIG's decisions, when it's like, as you're saying, it's mundane corporate practices. I think it's a stupid corporate practice, but I don't think that like it's not some sort of malicious intent to like ruin people's lives. It's just CIG is seeing what they can sell it at and how they can make it work. You know. All right, next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, do you feel CIG would be more successful using different avenue of FOMO, such as paints, components, FPS armor, etc.? More successful than they are now? Yeah. But
you think so?
And it's coming.
Yeah. I mean, how many people would buy a custom armor set with a custom logo on it of their organization?
Yep.
Okay, so maybe I'm misunderstanding. When they define, how do they define more successful? Make more money?
Yeah, probably more. I think Northern's saying more money. Yeah, because FOMO.
I don't see them making millions like they in the first day selling this stuff, as opposed to like the Idris or the Polaris, and not the Polaris.
Or how about if CIG sells like a limited number of solid gold plated armor sets?
Yeah. Well, think of it like this though, Fast Card. And okay, I remember Robert said something. He said, when you think about it like this, right? How long does it take for a developer to make a custom armor versus a ship? Right?
It's quick.
It probably takes somebody, it's quick. So the return on investment, on an armor set versus a ship is way bigger than, what you would get. Because I mean, how many people are going to buy?
But that's a different form of measurement, though. Because like you said, if you want to measure directly from the crowdfunding page, then I don't think they'll make much money. If you were doing it your way, yeah, probably. It depends on how you measure it. That's what I'm saying. You're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was clacking. I think it's a good question because like if you have a classic sort of FOMO situation where like you only have a limited number and it's like, this is the only time you have it, I think you could, and CIG sort of already has. You look at like Best in Show. Best in Show, you have to have the ship in order to get the skins.
Yeah,
that's that sort of thing. But is that necessarily a bad thing? I have CDF armor from the one time they gave CDF because he did specific the Xenothreat thing. You want people to play your game, so giving them a reward for playing your game, so that's only playable, burnable once, is that bad? That's FOMO. Play this game. If you're not here to play the game, you're not going to do it. But don't they want people to play the game?
I mean, I think we've established that not all forms of FOMO is bad.
Yeah, but I mean that's the kind of.
But people attribute it to being bad.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
More
than ashes of creation for that. So.
All right. Next question comes from Escape, who asks, "Don't you think rockets would be great on the fuel? Great for the fuel targeting missions in SSP2? Oh, Save Stanton Part 2." So Escape has been all up on a rocket strike, on getting a Talon strike, but replacing the missiles with just dumb fire rockets. So, yes. Serious Fun asks, can you imagine an entirely different way for CIG to recruit resources that isn't the traditional publishing model and isn't the current model they use? What would produce the resources required to deliver a quadruple A set of experiences?
You should have added the trademark to quadruple A, Serious Fun, because you started that. So, we sort of put TM next to that whenever you use that. Can you imagine a different way? No, I can't.
I don't know.
Say, no, I can't.
I'm not smart enough to know like ways of doing it. If I did, I would already be doing it. That's a question I don't think any of us are qualified to answer necessarily.
No, yeah.
I mean, previous show we came up with alternatives, but most of those alternatives are stuff that other games have done or are doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cyberwolf. Okay, Cyberwolf is running for something else. Says so. The question is, why does the marketing team do their jobs? David Stockton asks, question: have you heard anything about the whole B being worked on? No. There's no references of the whole B as far as we know. Have any of y'all seen anything?
No. Wishful thinking, though.
Yeah.
I was expecting it. After they did the A and the C, I kind of figured maybe that might have been something that would have popped up, but alas,
I mean, I can't wait for the whole D for obvious reasons.
Oh boy.
All right. Northern Trooper asks, outside of Star Citizen, what was the biggest FOMO purchase you had, and how did it pan out for you?
Ooh. Dang, got to think about that one.
Star Citizen?
Outside of Star Citizen.
Right. Ooh, wait, I got one for you.
Go for
it.
Okay. I got one for you too. Go ahead.
Okay. Getting into audio.
Ooh.
Guess what I purchased?
HD.
I purchased the Avid HD native card and the Avid HD native system back in the day. Right?
Okay.
Guess where that thing is now?
In the garbage?
Collecting dust.
Gone. Out of my house. And at Vintage King, maybe somewhere, somebody else is using it. That thing is so antiquated right now because computers have become so powerful that you don't need that DSP or that system. So when I got into music and audio, everything was so much like, man, you got to get into this, you got to get into that, and you don't realize you have to look at where all of the other markets, influence how technology is going to push you into something, and realizing at that time, man, I needed this, but not seeing what was coming up. Like, wait a minute, computers are getting better, better, and better. So you don't really need this. And that I would have to say really was a big FOMO purchase for me, as well as the they called it Digi Design 003. That is another one. Gone. Out of my house. Somewhere somebody's enjoying it. If
I think it's the camera I have right now is probably my biggest one. Because this camera is a Sony I forgot the model it is, but it's a model that other streamers used when I first purchased it, and it was the slightly cheaper model, but it was one of those slightly cheaper models that was not being produced anymore. So it was I either purchase it now with the money I have, which I had the money at the time to purchase it, or I have to pay for the newer one, which is more expensive. And I was like, I got to do that. And so I got this. And how did it turn out? Turned out well. Turned out great. Once I figured out how to use it, I did have to purchase other things like a capture card to come with it. But like now that I have all this infrastructure, if I get another camera like this in the future, if this one breaks or if I need a new one, I can get one and with a bunch of other stuff that I already have equipped, including like a battery pack that works for it. So, Griff?
Oh, I can give you a real easy one. How about it's called a timeshare?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
How about that? I'll make it real easy. Any of you who've ever sat in a timeshare speech where there's trying to sell you something, there you go.
Yeah.
Timeshare.
Fast cart?
Ouch.
I have a couple. 2011, before the Kickstarter for Star Citizen, there's a little game called Sword Tour.
Oh yeah.
Star Wars: The Old Republic. Star Wars: The Old Republic sold what's called a collector's edition. It was $150. It came with in-game items for every character that you create, an authentication key, and the big main feature was a statue of Darth Malgus, one of the main protagonists from the game. I bought that thinking, hey, this will be, it might be sold out within, 24 hours or a week or whatever.
Oh, wow.
That thing was still on sale 2 years after the game released. So yeah, that didn't work out for me. And I think the price went down too, but I don't quote me on that one. A different example: when I was a kid, we went to the Bahamas, and I wanted a keepsake. So I asked one of the vendors if I could trade a U.S. dollar for a Bohemian dollar. I was going to leave soon. So and I think my father was behind me. I don't remember what kind of face he was making, but I imagine he was making a disappointed face or saying that's not a good deal. So yeah. But I do want to say.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I do want to say congrats to everyone in chat who got a 5090 or 5080, because that's definitely FOMO.
That's definitely FOMO. Oh god, that's FOMO. I've heard rumors that the plan was to release it, sell them all out, and then produce what they have, and then spend a lot of time producing the 5070s and also more 5080s and 5090s, so that when the 5070s come out, they have a new wave of stuff that comes out, and then they have more available for everybody. So that people who are purchasing $6,000 cards are now going to be like, "Why? What?"
People are selling those on eBay for $7,000, $6,000.
It's not worth it. That's not worth it.
Can I add to my list though? Real quick, I got two things. One is buying Assassin's Creed's Black Flag, the premium edition. I'll never do that again. Never do that one again. Not the greatest game.
I guess this is also FOMO. I also, but I again, this is not my I don't really see it as a bad thing. I purchased the collector's editions of Halo 3, which has the helmet. Came in the helmet thing. I still have it. It's still in my bedroom. And I also purchased the collector's edition of Titanfall 2, which came with a wearable helmet. It came with patches. It came with all these sorts of things. I still have it. It's still on my shelf, that kind of thing. So, like,
For me, I typically only buy 3 or 4 games a year.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
because for one thing, I play one-handed, and the games that I'm really interested in not that many. So typically, when I do buy a game, I do go for the ultimate or collector's edition.
Yeah. Now my second thing is, excuse me. This one hurts very dear to my heart. Very
Anthem.
dear. Yeah, you're correct. If anybody is suffering from any
I bought Anthem.
shockwaves or shell shock
I bought
of
Anthem.
Anthem,
I know what you're talking about.
listen, we can talk about it.
Oh, I mean, there's plenty of games I
Yeah.
purchased. There was
Yeah.
one called The Mandate. It was a kickstarted game that was supposed to be it was like sort of like an isometric style game that had boarding
Right.
of other ships, but you could fly around in your ship and fight. And it was sort of this sort of RPG mechanic where you had to work with one of these different groups. It was very interesting. They showed off a bunch of different gameplay footage of it. And I kickstarted it, and it became a card game.
Ooh, oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Ow.
That wasn't really a FOMO as much as it
My
was
sim-
like
my-
I wanted to help out the
my
game.
sympathy
Is that a
because it
bait and
was cool.
switch though?
They
Is that
failed.
a bait and switch?
They failed. Basically, they ran out of money. And
Is
then
that
they,
I don't know. I was just trying to figure out.
and then they
is that-
sold it to somebody else who turned it into a card game.
Oh, damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
My sympathies.
Yeah.
That hurts. Well, I feel bad for Chronicles of Illyria's players.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's a whole.
That's the game I was trying
oh
to
my
think of. 'Cause
God.
that's the one that Gio always complains about.
Mm,
Well, I'll
I
say like
dodged that bullet.
I don't think those are necessarily FOMO as much as they are. They're like just
Bad purchases.
bad purchases. You know,
Yeah.
bad bets. You know.
Bad bet. That's a good one.
Um,
I mean, and there's a chance Star Citizen could be a bad bet. We don't know yet.
100%. All right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, FOMO is usually for consistent goods like GPUs, concert tickets, etc. Is it FOMO for ships that we, as a community, know the meta or the numbers change, i.e., the F8C? That's it. I think that also comes down to your personal preferences, your personal beliefs.
Objective.
Because like we know what FOMO is, and as we've said, like Star Citizen can fall under FOMO for some of those practices. But the question is more: is this a malicious attempt to utilize FOMO as a means of making money, or is this just a technicality? Is CIG explicitly riding on FOMO to make money, or is it just part of the overall tactics they use with including a bunch of other things? I couldn't tell you. I personally don't think they do. But yeah. What do you think, Griffin?
The question is what now again?
Yep.
I'm answering your question or what North End was saying. What are you saying?
North is asking, is it FOMO for ships that we as a community know the meta or the numbers change?
I mean, that's actually the part for me that I struggle with FOMO, because if you've been around any amount of time, in the back of your head, you know that there's not possibilities, the ships are going to change. And I'm not talking about just in respect to performance, but the ships aren't, there's so much about these ships that aren't even fleshed out. Elements of armor, shielding, things that they've talked about, things that they're testing. And we make these decisions as if they're written in concrete, not written in concrete, written in stone. And so that's why I struggle to call it FOMO. Sometimes I think it's you're making a decision with what little bit you have, and so much of it is based on visuals. Sometimes it's based a little bit on what's published, like in a brochure. But even then, every time we purchase something or buy something, it's that phrase at the end of the thing that says things can change with this. And so, and yet, even though we know that, we still, in our brains, formulate something about this particular thing that I'm purchasing that's going to be the greatest thing next to sliced bread. I struggle with it, with that being FOMO, because if it was a finished product, I would probably feel way more to say yes, but I have a hard time with that. I think we self-generate FOMO with some of these things that we buy personally. So
Awesome.
For me, it's like, yeah, I have to go with Griffin here. You've been around long enough, you know the ships are going to change. So, I mean,
Hmm.
it's like the Paladin is a great example. It may not be the ship that, CIG has advertised now, or it may not be the ship that when it comes out after a couple of months, it probably changed because, CIG had data because it wasn't in the game before, so they haven't had a chance for people to test it. And they said, oh, we have to make this change. Now, whether or not there's a nerf or probably will be a nerf, but, whether it's a nerf or a buff, we have to see. But at this point, you, I wouldn't buy a ship for it being the meta. I would buy a ship because
You want to do it.
it's the kind of ship or fits kind of role, or I just like the look of
Hmm.
it. That's why I would buy a ship.
Daedalus brings out a good point. I forgot all about LTI being FOMO.
Yeah, yeah, they mentioned that before earlier, and I forgot. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean,
Uh,
and LTI is more self formal than because CID has consistently said LTI is not a big deal. And matter of fact, the last CitizenCon, they laid out what LTI and the stuff would do because it's like basically
Hmm.
tier one of the warranty.
I'm looking through because there was a question that I'm going to answer real quickly. Um, because this question is from Gin and Tonic, who asks, oh, I'm good to this. Who asks, people constantly reference the marketing team. Who is the marketing team? And are they professional marketers or just developers? Game developers have long believed that they can do anything except art. Um, or is it just game developers playing at marketing? I can tell you who exactly the marketing team is because the senior head of marketing is named Elliot Chin.
Hmm.
His name's this isn't some sort of leak. His face is on the website. If you go to
Yep.
cloudimperiumgames.com, he was a PR manager for Blizzard. He worked as a product manager and then director of marketing for Sega for 2 years, back in 2005, between 2005 and 2008. He founded his own company called Aopa Games in the San Francisco Bay Area for about 2 years. Ended up working for Leapfrog, the company that makes like education games for several years, and then
Hmm.
worked as VP of marketing for Arc Games and Perfect World Entertainment for a year. And he's been the marketing head of marketing, VP of marketing for I don't know, chief marketing officer. Um,
Hmm.
he was the GM of Star Citizen and the CMO, and then he was then chief marketing officer and VP, or he's hired as VP.
You
And
know what year
that's
they started for marketing?
2019, May
Yep.
of
19.
2019.
So before that, Sandy Roberts or Sandy Gardner, but Sandy Roberts now
Yeah.
was VP of marketing for ages, like
Mm-hmm.
from I want to say 2012 until maybe 2019. So uh, there was some controversy with that. That kind of getting up just saying there was, but she did a good job because they made a lot of money.
Looking
Hmm.
through some of these people, I can't quite see. Oh yeah. So, and then I can tell you another person. His name is James L. He is the director of growth at CIG LA. Or was. He no longer works there. He left in May of 2024. Um,
In relation to Cal L,
Oh,
Mm.
oh
this is
boy.
I'm
just
here
this
all
is from
week. You're
this is all
welcome.
from his
You're welcome.
LinkedIn stuff. Um, Now I know that CIG was hiring specifically product managers, and for those of you who don't know who product managers are, they're your they're your they take a look at your thing. They break it down what's important, and they develop marketing strategies. So they tell the basic marketing, base level people, this is how we're going to market the game based off of these stats and these sorts of things. Um, you mentioned Sandy in the original reports, yeah. But yeah, so and Eliachin is got an MBA in communications from UC Berkeley. Graduated from Hong Kong University before that. So, yeah. So, to give you an idea of who to point at, that's who it is. When you're saying marketing or anything, it's that person. And yeah, he does have some experiences in both video game marketing and marketing in general. So, I have not met him personally. I have been hoping to meet him at some point personally and talk with him, but he's been. I wouldn't be surprised if he's avoiding me because I have said some things about him which I still stand by that I think he makes a lot of mistakes on. But I think what Jim was trying to get at is basically like, is this some sort of team that's professionals or doing what they're or is this sort of just people are winging it? And I think the advertisement team is winging it. The team that runs the advertisement, we know who they are because they've hung out in SEO before. They're very much more of the artistic side of things rather than necessarily the business side of things.
I'm going to push back on that one because they know things that we don't know, and they know things
true.
in advance, like months and weeks, maybe sometimes years in advance.
Yeah.
So they have to plan for that stuff, and otherwise they would be caught off guard. So I don't think they by the seat of their pants, as you or how you put it.
From my perspective, a typical activation for any product takes between 6 months to a year, and it requires a lot of time and prep. And there's a lot of things that CIG has done, like I'll just say the Nursa commercial, which should have been checked before it was released, that caused more confusion than it should have, and it wasn't. So it's clear that the Nursa commercial was either rushed out or nobody checked it, which isn't a sign of a good advertisement team that 100% gets everything right. You know,
Another example with the Guardian. I think they intended the Guardian to come out during IAE because they had that commercial, Space Wolf. And also, Luminali only had 11 days this year, and I think the 12th day, if it was 12 days, one of those days would have been dedicated to the Guardian. So, I don't think that's marketing fault. I think that they expected it to be out by a certain point, but it wasn't because for some reason it fell behind.
No, I get that, but that's a situation where because it's unknown. Like there's so much unknowns in there. Like I can't imagine. I can imagine people coming to the marketing team or to the advertisement and be like, "Here's our next patch. It's releasing here." And then you go, "Okay, cool. I'll get everything prepped. I'll go sell. I'll go buy advertisement space from Google. We'll set up times. We'll get everything working." And then 2 weeks before you're supposed to go live, they go, "Gabe, it's been delayed. Been delayed," and you kind of go, what? What do you mean it's been delayed? I have everything scheduled out like this. Yeah, it's been delayed. We got to do that kind of thing. So, all right, let's move on to the next question. Smoothiers asks, he's not asking. He was responding to somebody else. David Stockton asks question: are the fuel intakes on the 100 series really going to be that beneficial if most of the travel we'll be doing is in quantum?
Yes, it's beneficial now.
What's that?
Oh, I'm a 100 series fan. I've flown that thing around and run around and don't even have to put fuel back in the tank. I mean, the hydrogen rather. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool feature that's in that little ship. One of the things that folks don't maybe know that ship does uniquely. But again, it's not built out yet. It's not balanced out yet. But I think it's a highlight feature of that ship that's actually in the marketing / propaganda of the 100 series.
Well, people also forget that your power plant's going to use hydrogen.
Yes.
So it's not just a feature for hydrogen; it's also your power source. So it means you don't have to spend as much hydrogen to keep your ship running. So.
Yep.
All right. There we go.
I knew Griffin was going to take that one. I was just like, sit back, let Griff handle it.
All right. Next question comes from Call Me Teach, who asks, rephrasing my previous question, What do you think the ratio of developers to marketing members are in the studio? Give me 2 seconds.
Ooh,
Ooh.
no idea.
We actually
idea.
have this answer.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
Paul's probably got it. Yeah.
Look at Paul, such a professional streamer.
Okay, so in 2022, CIG released its every year they have. I'm surprised they haven't done it yet for 2023 because it's overdue. I don't know why they haven't released it publicly, but they usually have to report it with the British government.
European,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So they have a headcount analysis. So in 2022, publishing, ops, community events, and marketing was all one group, and that was in the U.S. was 120. 125? Yeah, 125 people, and in the rest of the world it was 57. So they had about 100, and that's publishing, ops, community events, and marketing. So it's your community managers, your ops team that does publishing. So like a lot of those people are in Austin. So people like Wikipedia is part of that. So those folks are added into this. So keep that in mind. And there are 57 in the rest of the world. So it's a total of 80, something like 83, 84 people, 184 people. Whereas the developers, there were 527 in the rest of the world and 83 in the US. So you're looking at well over 600 people who are just developers.
So what are the other 700? Because they had like 1,500, don't they?
Well, this is from
Or no,
2022. This is from 2022 when they had 800 people. The other ones were generals and admin. So like for admin, they had about 60 people, 60, 70 people in admin. So it goes admin, publishing, ops, marketing, and stuff, and community, and then development. So it's still
1,100. That's probably 2023.
If they kept the same ratio, and I'm assuming they are, we're probably going to see the same kind of thing. They said headcount analysis by discipline, specifically. Oh, actually, I have specifically here. Yeah, it's 182 for publishing ops, and then 610 for developers. So, and if you look at their past, if you look at because they actually also show all the way back to 2012, like their headcount, it's pretty consistent. Where over 60%, 70% of the development of the studio is just developers. So.
Third, almost.
Yeah. So 20% of the company at the time was marketing. That doesn't sound small. It's not just marketing. 160 or 182 people. That includes Wikipedia. It includes your Ahmeds, your Night Riders, your Xylos, your.
Wait, I have a Night Rider?
Yes, you do. He bans you all the time. That includes those folks. That's in that head count. They don't separate that from those groups. So, and from my experience, that's basically most of Austin's studio. I would say 30 to 50% of Austin studio is just platform. So your CDaddies, the people who run the website to make sure that the sales run, that kind of stuff. So even with that in mind, probably about half of that is publishing. So you're probably still looking at 70, 80 marketing folks. On top of that, stretched across 4 studios at the time. That's not too badly. Yes, customer support staff are also lumped into that as well. So everybody who would be concierge and stuff like that. It would be interesting to find out what percentage of developers work in each department: tech, missions, planets, arts, and teams. It flitters too much. There's too much. They go between each other a lot. Like there are people who work in one department and move to the other departments, and they work together. And yeah.
And they switch titles at the drop of a hat. So you might be might have one title doing the same job. So yeah.
And another good example of this, ISC is also part of that crew. And the people who make ISC, we know there's like 6 people who make ISC, 6 or 7 people who are part of that team. And they also make the trailers. So those would also be marketing, because it is marketing, but it's also ISC, which is also marketing, but also not,
Does
CIG.
that include people who make the animation for the trailers?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it'd be more than that. Okay, never mind.
And there are some of those people who also work in dev, because some of those people are also cinematics teams for Squadron 42 and stuff like that. So, all right. Question to the panel. The Star Citizen audience can be very protective of the game. Does/has audience capture every affected your ability to give your unfettered opinion on Star Citizen and CIG? Basically, have we changed our opinions in fear that we might get attacked for our opinions? I'll answer if you
No,
want
for
to.
me.
Oh, well, I was just waiting for somebody else to answer.
My
No.
answer's no.
No. Why?
I don't worry about too much of whatever. I mean, I'm conscious of what I say. Like if I come on your show, I'm conscious of what I say, but do I hold back or water down opinions? No, because there's enough room for everyone to have different opinions for something like this. This is a very unique gaming experience. A lot of us have never gone through something like this before, and there are a lot of both thoughts and emotions tied to people who push through this project. So, they're not going to agree with everybody. Everybody's not going to agree on whether CIG is doing the right thing. A lot of this we won't find out until the end, whether the ends justify the means. And even then, even if the game is successful, there are going to be people who are going to be critics of what they've done. If the game fails, there are going to be people who are going to say it's the greatest thing next to sliced bread. So there's a lot of room for people to feel a certain way. So I don't really worry about. I don't try to offend anybody, but I don't curtail things when it comes to the conversation about this.
I'm going to go the other direction. I'm going to say, have you met me? Do I seem like a person who care how people react to my jokes and other stuff that I say?
That's correct.
I do care a little bit. I
think
you don't.
I think there's.
Yes, he does. No, Fast Card is way less about controversy than I am.
Yeah.
He's more easygoing with things a little bit more than I am.
Oh, he's more easygoing, but he doesn't care still what you think about us.
We'll put it this way: I am cognizant of how I say stuff, and because I do like putting stuff pen and paper before I actually say it. Because I'm like, do I want to say it this way or do I want to say it that way? So that way, I am cognizant. But once I'm set. Okay. Good luck.
I agree with you on that, though.
I will say I have opinions on the game, and I have found information on the game. I've had members of CIG reach out and tell me information about the game that I shouldn't know, that I do know, and about the company that I don't share. And that's not because I'm afraid of the audience's reaction or anything like that. It's only because anybody who's worked in any organization large enough knows that one person's experience or what one person is saying or doing is not always reflective of the whole studio or of the whole company or the whole organization. So,
but Paul, I've seen these articles on Kotaku and other websites where they take the gospel of what this one developer says.
It's but it's not helpful. It's just not helpful to kind of share those type of information because for instance, I'll give you an example that I've never told anybody. I've had multiple people at CIG in some departments and multiple departments in multiple studios who say the same thing, which is HR is wonderful until they're not, and then they're awful, and they will do some stupid shit to people and get away with it every time. And if I said something like that, people might be up in arms, and then I'd have to remind people. It's HR. Have you ever met an HR that wasn't a piece of shit? At least most of the time, if not some of the times.
Oh, duck quick. You got a dot on your forehead.
It's like, does that actually help you understand CIG better? No, because it's a universal experience of human resources. That's how they work. And so it's like it doesn't give us more of an insight as a studio. And I often think about that as well. Like I'm going to say something of my opinion or say something about it. I have to think about it. Does this actually matter?
Is HR like equivalent to like internal affairs?
Yeah, basically.
That's pretty
Only
much.
only with internal affairs, they're like very honest and upfront that they're there to bust you for something. HR is will buy you a pizza.
More subtle.
And they want you to be their friend and say, come to us with all of your problems and complaints. We want to work it out. And what they're doing is writing down who's complaining so they can fire them later. You know, that kind of thing. That's not CIG thing. That's just my experience with how HR works. They're there to help. They're there to protect the company. But you know, it's the same kind of situation. Like, I'm not going to change my opinion unless I see something that I think is important to change my opinion. If I have new evidence that comes out, I'll change my opinion on something. But I'm not going to always share everything I have about the game or what I believe about the game because I don't know if it's relevant to people's experiences or to even my experience. So yeah. Fist, have you ever changed your opinion based off of the what could happen to the audience reprisal?
No.
Yes, you have. You changed your opinion based on how I would react. You did that. You did that all the time.
Stop lying. Why are you lying? No, I don't know. I don't do that. I mean, because I guess for me, I have my opinion of the game, and if it comes out, it comes out. If it don't, it don't. I mean, I've kind of have my set understanding that I'm at peace with where the game may come, where the game may go. You know, the game is not written in stone right now, so I'm at peace with that. Just as much as how much money I've spent in the game, I'm at peace with it.
Is it written
It
in
don't come
silicon?
out, huh?
Is it
What'd you
written
say?
in silicon?
Can we move on to the next question?
All right, next question. Pops in Space asks, is there FOMO of missing out on FPS caused by Star Citizen's cinematography?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know what that
I don't know
means.
about FPS.
See, I'm not
though.
an FPS person, so I'm a bad person to ask for that one.
FPS pops.
Is Pops
I mean,
asking like, is cinematography are they doing? They're making the game look better than it is in terms of FPS.
you know what? Well,
I don't.
I would have to say, okay, then if Pops is talking about, if I'm understanding my dad, what he's saying. By the way, that's my dad.
Yeah.
Everybody. Yeah, but I would have to say from the way they've advertised FPS in their advertisements, right? Obviously, it looks smooth,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do you get that same experience in the game? So, does it create FOMO as far as to buying something? I don't see people going out buying a gun though. Really, like I gotta have this gun, to do FPS. I mean, really.
Yeah, all the armor and guns and equipment that I buy for the looks. Like it's red. I got the red armor set. That was not from this year, but previous year. That's just me though. I'm not an FPS person.
I do think
Yeah.
I think it comes back to the same point I was making earlier that video games or any product is going to advertise to you what they think you want from it or what they think that they want to give you from it rather than what it actually is 100% because some things you can't advertise very well. Like how do you advertise condoms? Not an easy product to advertise considering all the limitations on what it is. So Trojan has to get.
I have an answer for that, but I'm going to try to respect the truth in terms of service.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, so you have to get creative, and if you've ever seen a Trojan ad, they get kind of weird with their metaphors and what they're showing off. And video games are the same way. Like, how do you market? Like a good example of this one is how do you market a game like Doki Doki Literature Club? If nobody knows what that is, you probably think it's something that it isn't. If you know what it is, there's a twist to it. And that's the whole point of the game, is the twist. You know, how do you
Okay, Doki Doki. I figured that out. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
Okay. So I think my dad is trying to clarify it. He's saying that is there FOMO on FPS because Star Citizen's visuals are so much better
than
in
the actual game.
I guess
Yeah, that's
than
that's
the
what
actual
I'm
game.
and that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. It's like,
Okay.
I don't think CIG is using FOMO marketing with that, because again, they're trying to capture what the game is trying to be and the experience they're trying to look at. I think if we were to see anything, I think CIG would probably do better to do a gameplay trailer and a cinematic trailer, because that's how people in games understand games.
Yeah.
They understand what a cinematic is different from a gameplay, even though
Right.
everything that CIG does is captured in engine. It's captured in game and or in engine, but it's just captured on their side and a very specific things. But as I said,
Server that's just running on all cylinders at the top FPS
Yeah.
that we don't so desperately desire to get. But I get what you're saying.
yeah. So, but it's
I
like,
still wish we had Seder Ball, but I know
Yeah.
we're not gonna get Seder Ball.
it's pre-animated. It's not pre-animated.
I don't think it's pre-animated.
No.
I think it's scripted.
It can be.
There's
Yeah.
a difference between because in Unreal, I watched this demonstration, and this is one of the things in working in Unreal, you have a such thing called a take recorder.
Mhm.
You have to script out what you're doing. I can play the game and it'll record what I'm doing in Unreal, but you have to script out. So it's still within the game. It's not animated, because animated now says, okay, I'm going into Maya, and then now I've got to basically take this walk cycle. He's walking over here, he's doing this.
It's a lot
different.
harder to do animated than it is
Yes.
to do scripted. Scripted, you take the pre-canned animations you already have, you take triggers that already work, and then you run it through a trigger and make certain things happen.
I love how he moved on after saying it's much harder, because he knew I was coming. He knew I was gonna get in there. But yeah,
Of course, it's
job.
pre-animated. The
Good
ads are
job.
captured in engine, but you set up the animation in every way. You can also animate in engine. They're not animating these things in engine. That's far more than they
No.
are. No.
They have people that just they're players. They're logging into the server just like us. They're players.
Mhm.
Like, and they're players, and basically what they're doing is they're saying, okay, this is the script. X is going to come down here. This one's going to come down this way. You're going to fire at this way. Blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah blah. You're still playing the game through the game and the engine.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
And they
You're
might
just
have
not
NPCs are
Right,
are
exactly.
specifically told to do this. Like you get a NPC and you say move this way, but it's the same technology they use for the game.
Yes,
It's just
the ads. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
all of the ads.
Yes, the ads. Yes, all the ads.
Uh,
I can tell, because reason why I can tell is from watching a lot of differences between the way they do their gameplay versus somebody who's done it, who's an animator, and you
Mhm.
can look at it and you can tell from all you have to do is basically go watch Prime's Secret Level.
Yes.
Mm,
Watch Squadron
that's a good
42
show.
cinematics. Watch the Squadron 42
Watch-
cinematics, and then watch
There you go.
gameplay ad. The cinematics would be animated team, would be the cinematics team. If they're not the same. It's just that the technologies they have now are they're much better than they have been in the past. So to somebody who's that has not tried to look through some of these things, it's like, this is all animated. It's like, no, they already have these animations. They're just running the animations through. And they may do some sort of like emote, or they may have some other things that have done. But yeah. So for instance, the ad for the Eclipse, how do they make the person push the button?
Okay,
and
that might be a little bit yeah.
Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about. What you're talking about is the ship advertisements. What you were referring to, as far as I understand, was the like play now, playable now, flyable now commercials, because those aren't the same commercials. They don't run ship ads as ads for Star Citizen. They just have those on the website.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the 3 point or the 4.0 trailer, like the return to or welcome to Pyro or coming to Pyro. That's not animated. That's gameplay and mixed in with scripts and stuff like that. No, they can record in-engine clips with dev tools as well as running a local server, etc. It's one of the reasons why we don't actually see a lot of the gameplay, like the ship trailers anymore, is because the team that was working on those ship trailers are working on the cinematics for Squadron 42. All right, let's move on for that. All right, next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who asks, "What objectionable marketing practices does CIG employ that aren't common across the entire late-stage capitalist landscape?"
Have an open development for a game that they advertise it's playable now when the actual patch, like 3.18, is buggy as hell. I think that's pretty much a Star Citizen thing. But more seriously, a lot of people complain about the Legatus pack, but for people who don't know what the Legatus pack is, a $42,000 pack that has all the ships in it. But the thing about the Legatus pack is that the players wanted it, and CIG provided it for people who have both of the ships
Really?
and just want to consolidate all their ships into one thing. So the
I
only
had
reason
no
why the
idea.
Legatus pack is there
Oh
is
yeah.
because the players wanted it.
See, you know what? If
But
I'd
that's the
have known
Michigan.
that,
That's
I'd
the
have
Michigan
never.
section.
You know what? I would have never have thought Star Citizen was a scam. I'll be honest with you. I did not know that the players wanted that.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the whole
It
thing.
was
Yeah.
it was
Yeah, as the-
it was like effectively if somebody who was purchasing every ship and they were like,
Mhm.
"Can I just get a
Right.
package that hits
Okay.
all of them? I'll pay more
Right.
money for it. I just don't want to have to buy every
I
single
had
ship
no
and
idea.
look at all
Wow.
of it."
Yep.
So
But people outside the community won't know that. They'll see it
I
as
didn't.
yeah,
I'm one of them,
FOMO.
and I will tell you
Right.
that because I remember watching a video and a guy was talking about it. It was like, "There's a $20,000 package in this game," and I bought
And
it. I'll be honest, I bought into it. I was like, "Oh my god, yeah, wait,"
and,
you know.
and that's one of the
Mhm.
reasons why it's gated behind a certain dollar amount that you have to have in
Right.
your account. And because
Correct.
they used to display all the packs in packages.
we lost our
And
shit.
people would
Yeah,
scroll down and see that $27,000 pack and like, whoa, what's going on here?
It was literally one of the
I'm
first
gonna
things.
avoid this.
And we the community actively was like told them no, stop doing this. And so they listened and actually gated it off to Legatus or to Concierge only.
Mm.
So,
But no,
Other
but
than
see,
that, I can't think of
didn't stop
anything.
it though, because I'm going to tell you the reason why. Because there was video, and there was a specific video that unfortunately poisoned my mind.
that was
That they said
that's changed
because
since you.
right. So they changed it where because they changed it in the video. He specifically said, here's the package, but you got to spend $1,000 in order to see the package.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? You got to do what? You got to do what? Do what? Do what? Do what? Oh my God, this game is really until, like I said again.
Yeah. No,
I learned what the game was.
I'm of the opinion that the most of the drama around Star Citizen has created more people to buy the game than it has turned people against the game.
I think so.
It has. It's CIG is consistently proven the old adage: as long as all advertising is good at, or all press is good press, as long as you get the name right. Because every single time a big name person would come out and do a story on Star Citizen, CIG's funding just shoots up.
Mhm.
Because what happens,
Right. There's no such thing as bad press.
what they're doing is you're getting eyes on this game. And so, yeah, some people are going to say this is a scam, but enough people are either going to be, this is going to be the sixth time they've heard about it, or they're interested in the concept and they look into it and they start researching it and go, fuck, I want to play this game. And then they buy the game.
I think there's a point where there's a tipping point where it used to be bad for them until it became good. I don't know when that happened.
When CIG stopped responding. Because remember when Chris Roberts used to like threaten to sue like
Mhm.
journalists for what they did, and people said this is stupid. You're creating the Streisand effect, and he just stopped doing it. So
Mm.
yeah. All right, let's move
That might have
on.
been that might have been before my time. But go ahead.
It was a complicated one. It goes into the like the advertise or the marketing, not even marketing advertisement, the reporting, because we're talking about marketing advertising in my brain, the reporting of who Sandy actually was. Because for the longest
Oh, okay,
time,
yeah.
no one, she was using her stage name, Sandy
Mhm.
Gardner, rather than her legal name, Sandy Roberts. And so nobody knew that she was the wife of Chris Roberts. And everyone, it came out that she was, and it was like, she got this because of like, um,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
you know, whatever, nepotism and all kind of stuff.
Nepotism, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people, myself included, were like, well, we don't care. Like, it was a small company with five people in a shoebox in a basement in Austin. Like, you get with who you have. Like, if your
Yeah,
wife is
but
willing to be your marketing director, you let her do it.
but Paul, they had fun on that yacht that they can afford because of all the movies that Chris Roberts was producing.
Yeah. Again, that goes into the whole like, I stopped talking about that stuff because what does this have to do with the development of the game at all? But all right, next question.
Paul, the reality is there were a lot of broken-hearted guys that used to hoot and howl at the different games event whenever Sandy came out. That's what happened. They felt that, what? She's married? Oh, shoot.
Has 2 kids with Chris? Yeah.
Great.
Oh, so y'all can just imagine somebody in their little closet got a shrine up to her and just knocking everything down when they see that.
Go back and watch the early videos when they would go like to Gamescom and stuff like that, and look at how people would respond when she would come out on stage. You'll see what I'm talking about. Those who were around back then.
I'm tempted to say DS, but that's all I'll say for that. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
So this is a longer one from Iris, who says, is there a value in tightly defining FOMO versus examining what emotions are at play and how various tactics evoke emotions it plays on? It feels like responses define the tactics out of consideration when the real argument is about the effect and how it feels bad. Clarify, I'm a chemist. People complain about chemicals in their thing. I can choose to address the use of chemicals, literally all the things of atoms, or I can address their often valid concerns. Is there a value in spending a lot of time and effort, or any, defining FOMO rather than addressing, perhaps acknowledging that some of the marketing tactics used end up being a bit shady or feel bad? I think the problem is people making mountains out of molehills.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't address people's concerns, then they'll just keep making it. But if you do address people's concerns, they'll just move the goalposts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as we've all sort of said, yes, CIG participates in FOMO marketing, yes, but not in a way that feels malicious. But there are things that they've done wrong. Fastcar does the feels bad of when they change something right before they sell something else that's going to be replacing it, or Fist talking about the Aries. I talked about like the whole limited sales thing makes no sense to me because it discourages people from buying the game when they want to fucking buy the game, when they want to buy the thing they have, when they have the money for it.
Right. Yeah.
So CIG is not above criticism, or their practice is above criticism. But
the thing that
go ahead.
thing that gets me is that every year, massively OP. I don't know if you're familiar with them. Every year they top their end of the year chart for being the worst business practice. I mean, but the thing is, I'm not sure how they're defining worse because they're making so much money.
They're defining worse in terms of
business model. Yeah,
business
business
model.
Business model, yeah, business
Mhm.
model.
The reason why they do is because they feel like CIG is taking advantage of gullible people who are trusting CIG and that it's never going to come out.
But and then I argue that mobile games are tons worse.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So my thing with that is that, let me ask y'all a question, because if Star Citizen succeeds, both games, Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, universe.
Mhm.
Does that change the landscape of games? And are games that are out there today, are they scared because now they got to do
That's
work?
that's that's one of the conspiracy theories is that the reason why Star Citizen and CIG get so much negative press is because people like Activision or EA are afraid of what may happen if they turn out to be successful. Who knows if that's true?
Yeah.
It depends on who you ask, but yeah.
I think there's definitely a kernel of truth, especially with like games journalism. The reason why games journalism always goes so
Mm-hmm.
hard on CIG is because they don't have because they can't go hard on EA or Activision. So if Blizzard gets into some serious trouble, games journalists know that unless it's like absolutely abominable, like the stuff they got charged with like rape allegations and all these other things,
Right. I remember all of that. Right.
they're not going to report on it negatively because guess who pays their bills? Blizzard. Because
Yeah.
Right.
Blizzard
Exactly.
advertises on their websites, and that's how they get money. And they often have to have good relationships with these companies to get early access to these companies. So they have to walk a tightrope. CIG doesn't pay anybody those sorts of money. So if they see something that, you know, Ubisoft is guilty of doing, they will, in my opinion, based off of what I've seen, I feel like they turn a spotlight on CIG to specifically target CIG for doing something similar because they said like a Valve release as a ways of being like,
Hmm.
I'm mad at the industry and these are easy people to target. Um, and I also I don't think the big players are targeting CIG because they're afraid of Star Citizen. But I do think that what CIG is doing is proving a lot of old adages wrong about games.
Because
Because
it you know what it reminds me of though, Paul, real quick, is that when I got into audio
mhm,
and it was a big fuss on going from analog
to
to
digital.
digital.
Mm.
Jesus Christ. I mean, you had your old heads, and I get it. Analog has its place. It is a um significant sound to it. I mean, all your old classic records were made upon a tape and all of that stuff. But digital has come so far in terms of emulation of those old things. I'm not saying that they're one to one.
Mhm.
That's not what I'm saying. But it's just I've heard this story, this whole big fuss of analog versus digital, the old guys versus the new, and I see that where, I kind of equate that to the same thing where here's CIG coming in, changing the game. And I'm seeing that same fuss where it's like maybe I could be wrong where I'm seeing that same fuss. It's like, man, are these older games like EA that are set in their ways? Because this is the same thing. Like I ranted a while back about Avid
Mhm.
because Avid got complacent in a way they thought because when they thought industry standard, this is Pro Tools. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if you go on YouTube and you'll look at it, it's a guy named Barry Johns, and he talked about him for a long time. Like, y'all better get your act together because you got all of these companies that are out here that are doing bigger and better things. Don't get complacent and think industry standard means you've got things on lock, you
Yeah,
know. And I think that's where I'm kind of seeing that resentment from where I see those articles. And that's where I was like,
I could
is
definitely
this kind of like same thing?
I can see that. I mean, I know we have lots of Elite Dangerous people who watch me and Eve people who watch me. And Griffin, you used to do Eve, so you kind of know this. I 100% believe there is definitely groups of people out there who want to see CIG and Star Citizen fail because they're threatened by its existence. Um, I mean, Elite's been eating good recently. The Frontier
Mm-hmm.
team is finally back.
Yep.
like
Yep.
they,
Yep.
they're
Okay.
they're finally
Finally.
back to doing some Elite stuff, and it shows that they're back there and they're doing some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing lots of good stuff now, which is great. But I remember before Odyssey and just after Odyssey, there was this huge sort
Hmm.
of like depression amongst the Elite community because it's like they felt like they were abandoned. They had all this hype and then it just exploded. And I think some of that bitterness can still be there because if you're somebody who's a hardcore Elite fan and you see a friend or content creator start streaming Star Citizen or start playing Star Citizen, you might get mad that they're leaving your game. They're betraying your game. And I saw similar sort of mentalities with Eve, and I've seen the same thing with Star Citizen fans in reverse. Like a Star Citizen player starts or streamer starts streaming Elite, there are players who can get pretty vicious about the whole thing. But yeah, it's there's definitely weird. Star Citizen has a weird experience because I don't think I've ever been in a game where large sections of the gaming industry and the gaming community are rooting for it to fail. It's an interesting thing.
That's true.
I have one example. Line of Defense.
People were laughing.
People
at
rooted for that one to
Defense.
fail.
They weren't. People were like enjoying the downfall of it. And there are things like the latest Assassin's Creed game. I know people are just lining up to see like, I can't wait for this thing to fail. But like, you don't have people actively seeking to just sort of like find one disgruntled developer so that they can claim that Ubisoft is like the worst company in the universe. So
that's true. Yeah, I give you that. I give you that.
And I think that's also where this discussion of FOMO can come in, because often you'll see people coming in with the desire, they want to see Star Citizen fail, they want to do everything they can, so they'll throw everything they can at it, and unironically use that while also defending similar practices in other games. So that's why it's kind of do this. Yeah, I did used to stream Elite. I don't stream it anymore, but I might get back into it now that they have all of the new stuff coming out. All right, let's see. Last question from Commander Alice Aurora, who asks, are people really spending more than what is essentially disposable hobby income due to FOMO? Example, taking out loans, or is most of the big spenders, is it just most of the big spenders are more vocal in the community? I don't think I've heard many people taking out loans to buy starships and Star Citizen.
I mean, if you're doing that, then we need to talk and have you sit down.
Not you. You need to find a professional help.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. We need to sit you down and have a talk. And say,
intervention.
There were some people who lost their like marriages over Star Citizen.
Yeah.
There's a couple of like big names that's happened. I would say like less than 10 of people who've come out like that. But like, I don't know if CIG. We're talking like early project CIG before any of this stuff.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
So I don't think we're really seeing FOMO destroying households, that sort of thing.
Right. That's.
But there are people who have buyer's remorse.
Yes.
There are people who, they thought that the game was going to be one thing, and they're seeing it kind of finally evolve into something that maybe they didn't expect, or maybe they didn't know, or maybe they based their purchasing decision based on the state of the game at that time. So I think there are some people who may be feeling like, man, it looks like this is not what I thought it was going to be, or and then there are people who probably feel now, especially after, so much variety of stuff that's out there that people have bought, that they're like, man, we heard people talk about how they downsized their fleets, right?
Mm-hmm.
They pulled back, because as they're starting to see how the game is forming, they're realizing I don't need to have all this, or if I do have all this, it's going to take away from gameplay. So I think there's a mixture of feelings that people have. Some people are very satisfied. Like Fastcard and I've had this conversation about how, with the amount of money we put into the game right now, do we feel that we've gotten our money's worth? There's a part of me that feels like I've gotten my money's worth from what I've put into this game. If I average out, I've been here since 2013, 2014, something like that. If I add out that amount of time and I say, with the gameplay, the people I've met, the experiences I've had, the travel, has that money that I've put in equaled that? I would say for me, yes. That's right now. I feel like, okay, I've gotten something out of this, even for the amount of money that I've spent. There are other people who feel like, no way have I gotten my money back out of all this stuff. And some people, it's going to not until we get the end product that they'll finally feel like they got their value for what they've spent, whether that's $25 or $2,500. So I can understand people who might feel any of those ways, but um, for me, there's a lot more involved. I've gotten to do stuff like this and meet people like Paul in person and relationships. I mean, there's all those other things that get added into that beyond the game itself, But for some people, they don't have those experiences. All they have is the game, right? And so I can see why they would feel a certain kind of way too.
To Griffin's point, talk about buyers and remorse. I'm not trying to trigger you, Griffin, so be aware. Solo players, you talk about downsizing fleet, an example of, solo players buying this big ship and then realizing, oh, I'm not going to be able to utilize this ship as well as I thought I would be able to. So I should probably melt it down and get something smaller. So yeah, FOMO can play, especially one night. There was a point in time when I had the Odyssey, and that was before all the Kurt Killer thing came out. Because I was like, oh, it can refine and it can refuel and it can explore. It does 3 things that I would love to be able to do. But then it turned out the Q&A came out, and it turned out it can only refuel itself, or you can't take out the fuel and put it in other steps. It's not a refueler. So I'm like, okay, I jumped the gun on that one, but yeah.
I don't. If we're talking about sort of like like what do you get out of it? I wouldn't be streaming. I wouldn't be making content if it wasn't for Star Citizen. Hell, I've started writing again, and I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for Star Citizen. So like I've met Fist, I've met Griffin, I've met Fastcart in person. I've met tons of other people. I've managed to somehow people have talked to me about how my videos, like my Captain's Table videos or my lore videos, have literally saved their lives. I don't know how serious it is, but they've talked about like how like they were in depressive spiral, and these are the things that got them out of depressive spirals, and this community helped pull them out because they could focus on something else other than say pain and suffering. Or so like I've seen this community and this game do some amazing things for your average person as well. This isn't just a big fluff piece about how this is the greatest gaming community in gaming, because we got our own problems and everything else like that. But
Yeah, one of the problems is a guy named Fastcart FC, but yeah, we don't talk about that much. I do have a quick question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
In my introduction, you would I don't know what made you decide to take a drink while I was giving my introduction, because you knew I was going to say something, and you almost did a spit take. I don't know how close you were, like that. What made you decide to take a drink?
Well, because I knew who you were. The second you said Django Unchained, I was like, I'm going to be Leonardo DiCaprio. So I was. what does Leo do in Django Unchained? He's famous for is walking around with a drink and speaking faux French and everything. So.
Okay. All right. Just making sure. Just wondering.
Yeah. What do you think, Fist? I was gonna say the actual questions. I don't think you've got to answer it. The whole basically. I'll read the whole question again. Are people really spending more than what is essentially disposable hobby income due to FOMO specifically?
I don't think so. I mean, because if you are, then you really shouldn't be here. I'm going to be honest with you. You need to really think about life and think about priorities. I mean, because if you're spending money outside of what you can spend, yeah, you gotta you gotta work on some personal issues there. Then because like I said, I've spent a lot of money just on my account personally alone. As far as my fleet is concerned. Um, let's say hypothetically the game doesn't come out. Am I gonna be mad? Am I gonna want my money back? I'm content with the point of fact that that money could be gone.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? because I have said to myself, I know what I put into the game and expecting hopefully the game will come out. But again, being able to meet all of you guys and what I've gotten out of it and being able to do things, it has inspired me as well to like I said earlier, doing cinematics and diving into Unreal and being able to really do things with my dad and really grow my relationship with him and being able to do things with that really is what's valuable. Because if I'm just playing Star Citizen by myself, what's that? That's a single player game. And I mean, to
That's
me,
Squadron 42.
pretty much, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, here's a fast card mind trick. You should rethink your life.
All right. But I think that's a good way of ending it. My brain is starting to get fried as it is because it's been cold here in Texas, and it's finally it's now starting to get like somewhat warmer. So having a computer on in a room.
Oh, when you say cold in Texas, what is the
How
temperature?
cold? What's the temperature?
Okay, so it has been below freezing last week for the entire week. Not this last week, the week before last.
I'll give you that. All right,
Okay,
I'll give you that.
And we had snow, like the day after MLK Day. So
And y'all are not prepared.
we are
down
not
there
prepared for
stuff
that.
like that.
So it's been
Y'all aren't.
it's been like the highs have been in like the 50s and sometimes in the 60s, but then the lows are in like the 30s. So yeah, like it's been rough. Thick fog caused some issues. What's that?
What about the windshield factor?
I don't know.
Wind chill.
The feels like I think it was colder than that because I live, where I live is very windy and there's very windy areas around here. So
okay.
So
I live in Boston. It's going to go down to 7 degrees tonight.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Yeah.
But like it's been getting slightly warmer. So now my room, because I have it on heat, I have the AC on heat. My room has one computer on, so now it's like 72 degrees, and so my computer's like with my computer on, I'm like, oh cool, I'm just gonna sit here in a 90-degree sauna in the middle of January or the first day of February. So as a result, my brain's been a little fried towards the last little half of this, if I make no sense. But I do want to thank Fist and Fastcart and Griffin for being here and hanging out and talking with us. Make sure you check out Soul Citizens on Thursdays and Sundays. Coming up with a big anniversary coming up.
The big 5. Not the 5-0, but the big 5. Not in March.
And make sure you check out Fastcart on, it's still the People's Radio, right? As well as
the People's Radio, the third Friday of every week. And again, also, happy Black History Month.
Yes. And check out New Soul on YouTube and Twitch to go check out some of those music. Are you gonna post any of those songs? You can, if you want to. You can always post the songs that you do for my for the Complete History of Star Citizen Lore series. Because for those who don't know,
you know what, Paul?
do that.
I asked you. You know what? We you know what I will do when I finish the lore history for this one? We will make an album out of it.
Ooh. Okay.
Thank God.
So what's going to be the album cover? That's what I want to know.
Even when he been strumming
what's the album cover going to be?
What?
The album cover.
You know
album
what?
Cover?
If you do,
it's his. So it would be based upon the lore.
I'll try to get Haskaha to do an album cover or something.
Okay.
And at some point we need to get Fist. We need to get New Soul and Wikipedia to do a combo.
We actually are.
Okay. All right. Is it Nick's?
Well, no. We actually I'm not gonna give too much, but it was me. Obviously, New Soul, me, my dad, Wikipedia, and Falero.
Nice.
Just looking to do something together.
So
hasn't come out yet. Hasn't materialized yet. But thank you for reminding me. If you want to check out some of our music as well as other music content creators of the community, please check out. Damn it, let me make sure I got the name right. Lord have mercy.
And Jump Point. Why you look?
Jump Point Collective.
Jump Point
Collective.
Look
it up on Jump Point Collective. Look us up on YouTube, and there's a couple of songs we put out there already. Some great guys in the community, great guys and girls, excuse me, that have been putting out some music on on there. And big shout out to the to Falero and the crew who put this community together and everything.
The fish face. When you do that collab, if you need a hype man, just let me know. I can put in a yeah boy in there for you, no problem.
I'll put the link in chat, and I'll make sure it's in the description as well for those of you who want to check it out. It looks like you have Jonas Dinolf, Platinum
Correct.
Dragon, Fire
Yep.
Dragon, Virgil Gardu, and of course New Soul. Yeah, it's awesome. It's great. And of course, if you did enjoy this and you want to ask your own questions live, come on, join us live at twitch.tv/theastropub. And for now, youtube.com/theastropub live on Saturdays starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Love to have you come down, ask your own questions, and join the conversation. And as always, make sure that you like the video if you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon to be notified when these release. Subscribe to us on Spotify if you want to listen to us on the go. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
It's Black History Month, Paul.